We're live. So, did I forget anything? Okay, hang on.
We should tell people we're here.
What's that?
You should tell people we're here, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Look, I didn't even do the ads this morning.
Yeah,
which
is good.
Yeah, I know. That's the whole thing, right? So here I am. Okay, wait a minute. So we're live on. I think we're back down to 14. Let me count just so I know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13. I dropped 2 more. Yeah, I'm trying to share in other groups, but the problem is there's no traction. So, oi. Somebody said oi. Morgan usually says that when she wants to give me a kiss, or she wants me to be quiet. One or the other. So we're live, and I feel like we're just starting the week out. I just realized we've only done 8 shows in 9 days after doing 86 last month. This has been our lowest start, but we're going to make up for it. So it's good to be back, everybody. Thank you for all the happy birthday wishes. I had a fantastic time, which concluded with a 2 or 3 hour sacred sexual interlude, which is not to be confused with 3D physical intimacy with the beautiful beloved that I'm going to get in trouble. I really needed to not start yet. That's the problem. But anyway, I've already got my foot in my mouth. So, but it's been incredible. So there's a lot of big things happening. Julie, you don't mind. We're going to run a few minutes over. So great. Julie's part of the team. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff been happening. I think really it started 1st of June and then kicked up again October 1st. And then this month it's kicked up like crazy. Everybody went into hibernation the last 10 days. People were just like, whoa, like a turtle in a shell, pull their head in, pull the arms and legs in, the tail in, and close all the garage doors around the turtle shell and wait till all the bombs stop going off. All right, let's play the Bruce had a dream of this morning of, wait a minute, you and Morgan visiting. God, a lot of people have said that to us. Now, Bruce is the Soulogy comic, but I know he's being serious. All right, forget the intro. F the intro. Excuse me, no disrespect. So it's been a pretty wild time here. I know your partner in crime didn't show up today, but we'll forgive her.
We'll send some loves out to Hung's busting dragon tail.
Is she? Is the dragon tail busting her?
Yeah, one of those. Some combo.
Something's been busting me. So a couple things. You can watch these shows on soulogynetwork.com. Also, David Icke is coming on in January. I'm not giving the date, and we're not going to post it until probably 2 or 3 days prior because of unnecessary interruption or interference. Okay. But just remember that show or any other show, no matter what happens on social media, YouTube, Facebook, all that other stuff, can always be watched on soulogynetwork.com. And we're going to get a calendar up there pretty quick, like in the next few days. Anyway, so that, and we have been getting suppressed, and everyone knows that, and that's okay. But if you could share it to one page or to a group, that'd be cool. Other than that, thank you for all the continued love and support and contributions that allow us to keep doing this every day. We're about to elevate as a result of some of the abundance that's come in, and what I mean is we're going to be able to upgrade our hardware, and we need to do that. We really do, even though what we do has never been full of spit and polish. It's always very natural and spontaneous and intuitive and creative, and we try to keep it real with people like Julie. Oh my God. And but I do think we need to, you guys deserve it, we deserve it, and so thank you for that. And we're just going to keep plugging away. So we have the Soulogy resident astrophysicist cosmetologist in the house. And I have to tell you, and I ask you about this every time.
All right.
But, and I don't know why this happens, but I'm going to say it wrong. Aldebaran. Aldebaran. How do you say it?
You can say it however. It's like potato, potato.
Aldebaran.
Aldebaran. Yeah.
Aldebaran. Okay.
It's all good.
Aldebaran came back again, like about 10 days ago. And I'm thinking, what the F is going on with this Aldebaran thing? Now,
I messaged you, remember?
Did you message me?
Because the moon moved in between the Pleiades and Aldebaran one night, and it had this alignment. There was like a gateway that opened.
When was this? 10, 12 days ago?
Yeah, I could go back and look.
I don't even remember what happened. I remember, and I do remember you sending me something. And I remember getting something. And I remember seeing something else. And it was like 4 things. And I'm like, and then I think you sent me the thing last time. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to ask her about this when she's on. And one of the things I got was, okay, it was that. So Aldebaran, the Aldebaran, it's a star, right?
Yeah.
Technically, it's a star. So Aldebaran has been, that star family has been active with us on the Earth for a long time, like many star systems. Now, this is what I got, right? And then specifically in the last 70, 80 years, like their presence and their interaction with the Earth has been very strong and evolving. So I don't even know what all this means, but I figured, I mean, I've been looking into astrotheology, cosmology. I mean, I've been looking into several things, especially this past weekend. So if you can shed any light on that.
Sure.
If not, just jump into whatever we're.
No, it's all right. I'll talk. That's great. Aldebaran is the eye of the bull of the constellation Taurus. So it's coded as more of like a yellow-orange kind of star. And it's one of the, if you draw the bull as a constellation, it's the eye. And so there's 2 primary clusters, star clusters, that I think talk to us here on Earth a lot from that constellation. Yeah. So the Pleiades are pretty famous, right? And then there's the other clusters, the Hyades, Hyades. So I said this to you before. Last time, it's really cool. We'll go back and look, but I was on last December, right around this time. And
that happened.
One of the reasons why.
No,
it's cool. It's like it's a perfect time. I love coming on at this time of year. So thank you so much for having me, and Morgan for booking me.
You're part of the family, man.
And so Aldebaran, that constellation is up at the evening time, when, before we get, like, most of us go to bed at, 10 p.m., midnight. So the time that we're visually seeing the stars is from sunset till about midnight, right?
Yeah.
So that when stars are around or up that time, they kind of talk a little bit louder because I think we see them more, driving home from work or whatever. We get them, right? And the Pleiades are very visible in November, end of November, early December. And the Hyades, it's interesting you talk about that. Like, one of my first times that I had stars kind of talk to me directly in star codes or light codes was the Hyades cluster. So it's kind of shaped like a V. And for me, this was like several years ago, but it's shaped like a V. And then sometimes when you're looking at stars in the night sky, they move in relation to each other. Have you had that happen?
Yeah, I've had that happen. And I'm always looking at going, I thought they did the same thing all the time, but they don't do the same thing all the time.
So this is one of the ways that, like, whatever, like star family, or this is one of the ways that contact or the stars speak, is they kind of scramble code. It's like they're moving, and then your human brain is like, wait, but stars don't move. What are those spaceships? Yeah. Why are they moving? Like, what are they put on these little shows of codes? Does that happen for you too?
Yes, it's happened.
This is cool to talk about because I don't know.
I just want to clarify a couple of things because I have a question too before you go on, but I love this. This is great. This is what we need. We need new territory. That's why I've been kind of bumping or banging my head against the wall. Like, how can we expand the frequency? How can we bring in more gold? And this is the kind of thing we need. One, Sirius has done it to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Since I woke up again. Okay, since I discovered it, which is probably 2013, and then of course, okay.
Sirius is like the disco
Aldebaran.
ball. Sirius
Yeah,
gets like a lot, like it's like literally like you look at it at night and it's like
it's like a
it's doing
disco
this
ball.
spiral
Yeah,
rainbow
yeah.
dance along.
Aldebaran has done. Okay, so and I want. So this is a statement and a question. Aldebaran's done it to me. Okay, so Pleiades is over here. Let me see. Pleiades is. Hang on. Let's do this. Pleiades is over here, right? Okay, so let's say Pleiades is over here.
Mhm.
Aldebaran is over here. I know I'm backwards.
Yeah, you're fine. You're good.
Okay, Aldebaran's over here. This is Taurus's head. This is the
Yeah.
eye.
Hmm.
And I got stuff on that before. And then from there, I know Betelgeuse is down here because that's been part of it. Well, it's kind
Yeah,
of like,
yeah, it depends. So when the stars come up, this is one thing that happens at night. You know, when
yeah,
they rise on the eastern horizon, they're like at a certain position, but then they
yes,
kind of do this over the
yes.
night. So like
So
sometimes
my,
they're aligned across the sky, and then they'll like kind of
right.
pivot on that same night, like
Yeah,
up and
I'm
down.
with you. I see that
So
happen.
you can see
Now,
it. You can put your hands anywhere, and it all works.
right on. So, right.
Yeah, but Betelgeuse is
So,
across, and that's
yeah,
another
you're right.
orange
You're right. I should
red.
have, yeah. Okay,
Hooded.
so here's my question. Okay, so for me, it's Sirius, Pleiades, Sirius, Aldebaran, Pleiades. I have seen Hyades, but I haven't like seen it. Betelgeuse isn't a big factor, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Orion around there somewhere?
Yep.
Okay,
So the
so for me, it's the
Betelgeuse is one of
Orion.
the shoulder stars.
Okay, that's right. So
Yeah.
to me, it's Orion, Sirius, uh, over the Pleiades, and of course, including Aldebaran. And so it's that whole quadrant right there. And so why? And I'm not the only one that would say something like that. Orion has been huge. Sirius is huge. We all know that. Pleiades is huge. What is the deal? Is that our most recent history? What can you fill us in on?
Yeah, that's great because it segues into what I wanted to talk about today anyway, and the gateway that we're moving into and aligned with the galactic center.
Yeah.
So we're in a spiral galaxy. We're actually technically in a barred spiral galaxy, which means the center is like a rod of light as opposed to a pinpoint of light. So from that barred center, there are spiral arms of the Milky Way.
Right on.
And all those things you just mentioned. So we're in the Orion arm or the Orion spur of, one of those. Say there's 4 of them, and we're on one. And all those things you just mentioned are our closest galactic neighbors. Like, so where our solar system sits. And one of the reasons I feel like we talk about Earth being that like the soul planet and the interface place. Like there's something special about where we're positioned in the galaxy. Like we're from the center of the galaxy, we're say 27,000 miles light years away from the center. And that's how long it takes us to rotate around. And then there's all this. Anyway, so from that on our spiral arm, all those things that you just mentioned are our closest neighbors. So Sirius is kind of like one of the brighter stars that shine and code down our spiral arm. But they're like, if you're like roadways, pathways, like the stuff. So where all the stars are born in the galactic center is like the nursery or the womb. And so when, if it was a bang that's made from the center of the galaxy, it spreads out. The light codes kind of spiral down that arm. So it's sort of like, the people that live up the street from you better than the people, in another state. The Pleiades are one of the closest clusters on the arms and so forth. And Orion, that's our namesake.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
We're in the Orion arm of the Milky Way.
Our solar system is what, like a vein in the arm of Orion?
I know
in regards to Orion, how size wise, how does Orion? Because Orion's a constellation, right?
Yeah, and
is the Orion constellation including Taurus, Aldebaran, and Pleiades and Hyades?
It's all one big sky, and the constellations are just like snapshots or pictures, the way that the our ancestors sort of divided up.
So they're not like So
they're individual stars. So from our point of view, they're only related. So imagine you're a planetarium and the roof, the ceiling is like dark. That's the night sky. So they call that the celestial dome or the celestial sphere. Those stars are really only related to each other because of our viewpoint. Like they're projected pinpoints up on that sphere, right? So the Pleiades are physically, geographically, whatever, close to each other because that's what a star cluster is, a bunch of neighbors or a bunch of like houses, a bunch of stars that are close to each other. But each one of those stars is like our sun that might have planets around it. So, the Orion belt stars, some of the things that we see in the sky are near each other and neighbors, and some aren't. Some are just like happen to be in that shape.
They just look.
Does that make sense? So there's like stars or movable.
If somebody was looking at our solar system, they would see our sun basically like a Sirius.
Yeah.
And then
except the sun is a lot smaller and dimmer, but yeah.
Oh, it is? Our sun's a lot smaller and dimmer than Sirius?
And Aldebaran. So some of the heavy hitters, if you look at a picture of like Betelgeuse, the ones you named, you like all the...
Those are the big ones, okay.
Yeah. Sirius.
Well, I'm from Texas, we like everything bigger, Okay, so...
But if someone was looking at our sun from far away, there is someone somewhere on some planet.
This is cool. We'll have to do... Well, we're going to upgrade our software and our capabilities, and we're going to have this set up to where we can have the graphics and we can actually get into this stuff on a deeper level. We're still, most of us are still in nursery school when it comes to the subject that one of the subjects, because you have more than one specialty, but in particular the cosmos. But tell us, what you were going to get into and if I know you will, but like tying it in to what does that mean to us at this time? You're like, what the hell does that mean that this star is moving here? And this is
right.
Even like the conjunction, which I know you're going to talk about. But yeah, what's happening? What does it mean? What kind of tips can you give us? And all that.
Oh, great questions, Todd. So back to this like spiral arm thing. So the center of the galaxy, or let's talk about our solar system. I think that's an easier gateway to go into this. So we can all picture the sun and the planets spiraling around it, right?
Yeah.
And so the solar system is on kind of like a flat disk, right? And then so that everything rotates around the center of the sun.
Okay.
Everything in our galaxy likewise rotates around the center of the galaxy in a spiral orbit. So it's like our sun has a sun that it orbits around.
That's far out, man.
So when people say the central sun,
But then I bet you if we get to the central sun has a sun that it's going around.
It has it's a barycenter. It's like a rotational. So we're in, our galaxy is actually in a local group of galaxies. So there's 12 different galaxies that we're kind of neighbors with in our sector of the universe. So that's an interesting thing. I think part of what's, in a galactic way, the 1212 that's coming up is has a code with this galactic thing. But let's go back to something simple.
Yeah, we'll go back to the 1212 though. I know you're going to talk about it.
So yeah, like our sun has a sun, and some people in our community, light worker crew, refer to that as the central sun. Yeah. And then some people refer to the great central sun. So that's like what the sun orbits around.
That's great. That's grandfather. No, that would be great grandfather's son. But great grandfather's son would have a sun that it goes around too.
Right?
Theoretically.
It's infinite. That's infinite, yeah. So let's go back to our solar system is on its place in the Milky Way.
Yeah.
So, okay, if you're looking up at that planetarium dome in the sky, there are a couple different pathways that we pay attention to. One is called the ecliptic, which is the path of the sun and the planets.
Yeah.
Because we're in a solar system that's a disk. We see it, they move predictably, and it changes a little bit with the seasons, but that the sun and the planets move along this line.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, separately from that, up in the sky, and if you're blessed, I live in a kind of crowded, somewhat urbanish area, so I don't see the Milky Way in my night sky, but maybe a lot of people watching this can see the Milky Way. you have to be out somewhere, you know, in the desert or dark or by the ocean. So that line of light we see at night is the Milky Way is also like a disk, like something about how things, so it's like you see it, but you're seeing it from the side.
Right.
So that we have that line, and then we have the ecliptic where the sun and the planets move. And occasionally, once a season, they cross each other.
What's that?
And that's December. That's like December 18th,
like,
19th. You Sagittarius people, like yourself, birthday boy.
That's right. Hey, so let me ask you a question, and we'll go back to the subject. If everything is, what did you call it? Elliptical? You know, disc looking, you know, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, no right or wrong, but so people talk about, you know, flat Earth, hollow Earth, you know, and then even if you consider other stars or celestial bodies, if everything is kind of built the same way, it makes me kind of wonder, because I've always thought, you know, I bet it's not even flat and it's not round. It's probably some other type of disc-looking thing. Because I remember getting a download a few years ago, and it was like it was more of an oval, but it actually was more disc, like a fat oval sideways.
Yeah.
In each section, there was like a different dimension. Now, that's just a download I got, but what do you think the shape of the Earth is?
I'm a round earther,
yeah.
But it's bulgy. But what you're describing is, like everything's sort of, it's not like flat disc, you know, it's like bulgy. No. It almost looks like the quintessential UFO picture, where like a dome and like a little bit of disc. It's like a bulge in the middle and gets a little more tapered out towards the edge, which I don't think that's the shape of the planet we're on, but things, you know, things that spin, concretize, like, you know, it was all, the Earth was all like
things that spin, they become circular.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Like a droplet of water. It becomes
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
As it was formed, you know, like as it's, if we weren't part of a rotational universe, I think our shapes would be different.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you're saying that too, because I keep going like, okay, sun, central sun, great central sun, and like how that keeps going infinitely, but also in you know, the other way. So inside us. So I was led to watch a bunch of stuff this weekend, which I hadn't had to do in a long time. I'm watching like about the pyramids. I'm watching about all the Phoenicians, and I'm getting all this code, and I'm having to watch all these videos. One of the things that was really interesting, though, which I never knew, was in Egypt. Of course, they studied the stars, and they were talking about how they built the pyramids, and they had this one theory about how they actually poured the stones in place. But in the process of talking about that civilization, they talked about how they came up, which was eventually the metric system. This is the Egyptians, right? And how they did it, right? Like, because when they would lay out a plot for, what do they call it? Well, for farming, because the Nile would come in and flood everything out, and then they would have to, where was my plot of land and all that. So they had this method, which was geometry, squares, triangles, and such. But their unit of measurement ended up coming from a drop of water. That no matter where the water fell, the drop was always the same size, which I think eventually was the centimeter. So
cool.
you're saying, because you're saying that with
like there is a code of life. There is organization. You know what the golden ratio or the golden mean is. Right. Is there's like we unfold from the cosmos in this like somewhat predictable order that creates the, you know, the shapes and the platonic solids, and the sphere is one of them. All right. I have two questions that I wish I could answer everybody's questions. Someday we'll do a Q&A for people. How about that?
Yeah. We have plenty of time.
But once, I forget who it was that rode by, somebody asked me about Alcyon, if Alcyon was considered the great central sun. And I'm so glad someone asked to clear this up a little bit. There is a whole narrative, and maybe it's true for that sector of the light worker community, that Alcyon is a great central sun, but it's not exactly, that's not how I see it anyway. The great central sun is reported that way and then regurgitated by a lot of other people as that, but it's not, it's just because that's the brightest star in the Pleiades, and that is close to us and very much like each star along that galactic arm that I was talking about kind of rebroadcasts the code of life.
Yeah.
The center, it comes from the center of the galaxy, and every star kind of, it's like the telephone game or way stations or places where the code of life gets rebroadcast. Like what we on Earth, go back to your question of why it matters, because our life as we know it, like my ability to sustain this body comes from the sun, right? All life we know it, because the plants here on Earth, like our life is about the heat and the warmth and the codes from Solaris, from our sun. And so that matters greatly, right? And the stargates or gateways or alignments are opportunities to get codes of light from other stars too. So it affects our light body. And part of what's happening in planetary and solar system ascension process, like as we ascend and as we raise our vibration, the light body comes online more, and we're more ascension. To me, as I see it, we've talked about this before, is really like our part of the galaxy, our solar system is moving into a part of the galaxy that's heavily coded. And some folks call that the photon belt. You've heard that term around. And that's where like part of the Alcyon kind of as being the central sun narrative comes in. But it's like there is a stream of light particles, be they asteroids, be they, just more light encoded part. And that's why we've had these cycles of, the yugas or the time cycles. Like we move to like the golden age is our solar system moving into a part of the galaxy that's more light encoded. So it drives the whole thing. Does that make sense? The other one, Claudette asked about what a Taurus was. So I brought a show and tell model because I thought we were going to talk about this, the timeline. So a Taurus is a donut, she asked. So that's yes. She asked that a long time ago, but this is like sort of a Taurus. I stole this from my 5-year-old. It's a kid toy.
It's a Twinkie, or what is it? A Slinky.
It's not a Slinky. It's this cool. This is like all the rage. You don't maybe get to hang out with 4 and 3 and 4 and 5 and whatever year olds, but it like folds up.
Oh yeah, isn't that the one you can put on your arm and all that?
Yeah.
I used to play with those.
Yeah. So anyway,
the Yuga.
Go
ahead about the Taurus first. Yuga in a minute.
I know we're so covering a lot of things. We should.
We already talked about this before. I'm going to talk to you again. We're going to talk about this again.
Okay.
But
you want to talk about this December? Because I feel like that's the what does it matter?
But I was going to say, I really think that it's, I'm just saying that I think it should be a regular thing, with the information that you bring to the table. So we would support that.
All right, great. I've got a bunch of friends that would come on with me and talk about this stuff too.
Whatever,
Yeah.
I mean, we're still
I would love to do
a little premature, but we're getting very close, right? I mean, we're really, really. So anyway, I'm just putting it out there.
Go back to this December thing, 12/10, and where we are now. So, yes. And I love that you of course, probably I hope most of the people that are watching this watch Sandra Walter, who was on a few weeks ago, but I love. A lot of us that work with the grids and the gates follow her work for sure. Yeah. And, we talk about, or anyone that's working galactically or with stars or with that, we're working with these gateways, and December is always this mega gateway, right? So I thought we could talk a little bit about like, what does that even mean, right? Like what's a gateway?
What's a mega gateway?
I just made that up.
I like that though. And I'm partial to December.
Yeah, so December is full of light codes so I described that like where the ecliptic and the galactic plane kind of cross. The sun moves in on the celestial sphere, moves into the constellation Sagittarius at this time of year. So if we want to look on the night sky where the galactic center is, now we can't see it because there's so much dust and clouds. We can generally see the Milky Way, right? That all the stars that make that dusty kind of line in the night sky. If you're somewhere that's dark, there's a spot along the Milky Way. It's technically called Sagittarius A. It's a radio. Like we don't actually know what's at the center of the galaxy because we've never been there. We've never seen it. We were actually, because we're in the galaxy, and we've never journeyed up and out of it, we have never really looked at what our galaxy looks like. So this is all conjecture, really. But scientists study other galaxies that they think are shaped like us to learn about what we might be like, right? But anyway, the center of the galaxy is at a spot in our night sky that's right between the Sagittarius constellation and the Scorpion constellation. So it's, Sagittarius is the archer, pull back the bow. That bow is pointed at the galactic center. So if you looked on a star chart or a star app, if you look for Sagittarius 3, that's the name of that star. That's closest to it. But it looks like just like a regular black spot of night sky. So it's nothing fancy to look at.
Yeah.
But going back to what you asked about, well, I still want to talk about that whole Sirius and Orion, but let's stay with this. So the sun comes, you're Sag. So in your astrological chart, your sun is in the stat, right? But so making a distinction just a little bit, they're both really valid and important, but astrologers study like what house your sun is in, and astronomers kind of look at like where in the night sky, like what constellation is it in? And those aren't always the same name. Does that make sense? Like that's a whole nother topic, but it's in the night sky at Sagittarius. So the conjunction that's happening, the Jupiter Saturn thing, that is in the night sky. So you picture like the archer pulling back his bow. Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter right now are like the quivers, or the
Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto.
Pluto are like positioned right behind that bow.
That's badass.
Yeah, in the night sky. And then the eclipse that's happening on December 14th.
So the 12th, but the 12th is what? The 9th we know was the greatest day of the year. We know that was yesterday.
Well, Todd's birthday.
The 12th is what?
That you were born, the angels got together.
And decided two dreams come true. What song is that? The Carpenters?
Yeah. Going back to the 70s, brother.
Okay, and the 12th is what? What's the 12th?
What's the 12th?
12? Isn't the 12? Oh, 12. Okay, sorry. Okay,
it's a 12. A lot of like DNA coding.
It is. It's a
like
power.
12 stage
Okay, I thought there was a celestial. Okay, so then the 14th is a solar eclipse?
Correct.
So that means there's a full moon or not?
Yes.
There is a full moon? It's a solar eclipse. No, I don't think there'd be.
No, it's a new moon. The moon comes between the Earth and the sun.
Okay.
So let's go back to December. So in December, the sun is moving along its journey through the constellations, and it like comes along into the Sagittarius zone. So the sun comes into, like, if we could see the Milky Way, the sun moves in the daytime sky, which we can't. The sun would move into like that cloud of the Milky Way. So the sun moves into the sky at that point where we can see it. Now, from an astrologer point of view, it's like 27.3 degrees of Sag, that kind of thing. So it moves to that angle in the sky. And that's what people say, that it's aligned with the galactic center. So the sun, so anytime the sun conjuncts, anytime two things come together in the sky, they make a stargate that is like a conjunction type stargate, where they code with each other. And so the sun sort of, to me, when the sun is in that spot, it's like this galactic center can send codes more readily through the sun, and it broadcasts it even louder here on Earth.
Far out.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
You hear from the galactic center more.
I just have to interrupt this.
Yeah.
Beth Trott had a birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday, Beth.
Hey, what can we say? So, okay, so, and we're going into 12/21, and I heard a couple of things, and people. I don't want to.
So wait, let me finish one thing. So that the sun is moving into that sector of the sky.
Okay.
So when the eclipse happens, the moon joins the sun there.
So now it's the moon.
This eclipse to me is like a huge deal for codes coming from the galactic center. So like my intel, or my what am I supposed to be paying attention to and gatekeeping with, is the galactic center codes coming Earth way this time.
Okay.
The eclipse kind of adds a whole other dimension to it that doesn't happen every year.
You have a massive code influx of new creations and new birth on December the 9th. Thank you very much. Courtesy of God. I mean, Todd.
And today, today's
Beth.
code day. I wrote this down, between now and the 21st to talk about. So today feels like a code day. It's 12 days from now. The 12 thing is pretty big in December.
Well,
so it's 12 days, and we count today as one till we get to the 21st.
Okay.
So everything that's going to happen, and this is true in the, I always say this wrong, the Theosophicology, the Waldorf school, the Steiner theory is like you can use.
Oh, Rudolf Steiner.
Yeah, you can use anything as we can use the next 12 days to code in 12 sections of life, or like what you want to build and create. So these next 12 days are
Christmas, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it comes from.
The same pattern, yeah. So, okay, wait a minute. You said 12. Okay, and like today, because one thing that's been going on quite some time is when the date is a cluster of ones and twos.
Yeah.
It's been huge.
Yeah.
Right? Like really huge. And today is one of those days. Yeah. Keep going.
So tomorrow
and the next day will be too.
Tomorrow's for me, this is just for me. Everyone else's intel may be different. But today feels like the code day of like that spark of the 12 up to the 21st. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow I get the call it in, like whatever you want to call in your stuff. And then the 12-12 is the DNA coding, like we're awakening more fully your 12-strand DNA, moving into the 12D mindset, 12 galactic neighbors, however you want to 12 it.
Let's stay with those first three first, because I want to make sure I get this. Because this was I heard Morgan and somebody talking about this yesterday. Anyway, so 12-10, you feel like is code day, like codes.
Well, right? It's opening this 12.
Oh, okay.
I'm choosing to this year use the next 12 days.
Okay.
To code in this 12.
Opening up, and then tomorrow is call it in.
That's what I heard for tomorrow. Yeah. Like to get ready for call in what's your highest? What world do you want to create? What's your
So like in layman's terms, calling in might be like, look, I want this, I want that, I create this, or whatever you want to call it. But these are the things to go to the next level, like, work, family, residence, you know what I mean? Is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
New tech equipment, but more soul evolution, and like, what's my highest purpose/service role?
It makes sense. I feel this. Like I can feel the buildup to what you're describing.
How much can I activate? How much can I raise my vibration? How much can I activate my light body? How high can I bring? Because your world's a reflection of you, right? It's the inner space thing.
Yeah.
So then Sunday, the 13th, to me seems like a calibrate. You get this influx of codes on the 12-12. And then you kind of need a day to integrate and recalibrate and calibrate. And then, so it's all like, it's kind of rapid fire right now. It always is, but this year has been, as we're in this climax of this year, like December is rapid fire. So the 14th is the solar eclipse, and that it's happening. So the sun and moon being right in the sky with the galactic center is a big thing for me to pay attention to, and anyone else that wants to join me, that'd be great. And then there's a bunch of other stuff with the Jupiter, Saturn. I don't know if it's helpful to go through each day by day, but the 18th into the 19th, depending where you are, is the day that the sun moves in alignment with the galactic center.
The 18th.
18th.
And doesn't that last till like the 25th?
Yeah, it's none of this is. I mean, it's been for a lot of us. You mentioned the November 28th. Like for a lot of us, all this stuff kind of turned on in November. 28th. Yeah, but the 28th. So we had a solar.
I'm telling you, November 28th. That day, it went nuts.
But that day, so the 30th was the lunar eclipse that accompanies the solar eclipse.
The 28th.
So that weekend was pretty big.
The 28th was a Saturday. Yeah, I've talked to several people, and even with Morgan and I, that Saturday, everything went boom, right? And they hadn't stopped.
So then we're moving into, we have like Jupiter, the Jupiter and Saturn alignment is coming, but there's a lot of stuff in December that will build up to that. But so in the night sky, Jupiter and Saturn are getting a little closer to each other every night, and they're setting a little bit earlier. So on the 21st, we'll have to, if we want to see it with our eyes, it has to be not cloudy. And then they're setting by like 7 p.m. So it's definitely like a sunset thing if people want to see the conjunction.
I saw them last night.
Yeah, they
were pretty close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the Galactic Center, it's good sign when sirens go by. So that coding happens on the 18th. December 18th, the Galactic Center. But yeah, it's not like a one-day thing. I mean, these are like slow-moving.
No, but I mean, to me, it was like, because that was my two questions, and this is part of what you're talking about. So you can keep going and just hit these questions too. One of them was, does I think you already answered it, but does this period, this period I heard goes from like the 18th through the 25th.
Yeah.
I know Morgan downloaded, like 2-3 months ago and pretty consistently, the dates were the 18th through the 21st, like power dates or something. I don't really know. And then the other thing I got, which some people said, no, that wasn't right, which I just shared a post. I just said, oh, this is interesting, was I think it's the 21st that you've got the sun, the moon, Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto, and I want to say 1 or 2 other planets and a handful of other planetary moons all lined up. And I heard 2 different things. One, it was the first time it's happened in 6,000 years. And the second one, it was the first time it's happened in, like 800 years. Do you know anything about that?
So yes, the 800-year thing for sure.
Okay.
That, the closeness, they're going to be, if you put your finger up to the night sky, they say that's like a 5 degree, like degree. They're going to be really close together, and they haven't been this close together in 800 years.
Saturn and
Jupiter. Like sometimes things conjunct in the sky, because everything's in a elliptical orbit and they're like slightly askew to each other. Like sometimes they'll conjunct and be like this close. I do it on my forehead. And sometimes they'll conjunct and be, they're just very, very close this time. Yeah. The other thing that I've been shown, that you talk about the moons, it's cool because I've been shown that too. Like in the night sky, those are like if you had a telescope or maybe binoculars, the moons are going to overlap. Like this merge that's happening. So to me, it's the, we started 2020 with the Vesica Pisces, like seeing that, the 2020 vision. Yeah. And we had that, I know you and Morgan were into that too. And so that we're now like pulling that sphere, or those 2 circles are overlapping to each other with this Jupiter Saturn thing.
Right.
So, and my friend Sam wrote timeline collapse, which I completely agree with. So there's a thing about, Jupiter has expansion in its field, and Saturn has a lot of responsibility, but also like the accountability, karma, timeline stuff. And we started the year, I'm going to go back to January 13th. Right. The Saturn and the sun conjuncted, and that was a big day. But I saw that too, of like, so Saturn like showed me this thing with the Saturn rings being like timelines. Yeah. And there's a lot of like time activity. Like, why is Saturn always considered like father time, right? So I had this Taurus out before because if you think of the rings of Saturn, like each one of them, like a timeline, and you can walk through timelines and they like collapse and like pull in together. Whereas normally like timelines, we talk about them as like part of the Taurus field. I'll credit Sandra Walter with this because this is like her work. And I learned this in her Ascension Path course. From the heart, the pulsing and the Taurus, like each one is like you say a line to your highest timeline. Like each one of these loops of the Taurus field is a timeline in itself. Okay. And so when we have a collapse of the timelines, it's like, boom.
How did the timelines collapse?
Good question. I don't know that I know that.
I mean, is it? Well,
This,
let me say it a different way. Is
I feel like the merger of the Saturn and the Jupiter are assisting.
okay.
And so the way I've seen it and what I've been shown, I haven't talked about this with anybody, so this is fun, is that if you look at Saturn, I forget which one is North Pole or South Pole, but Jupiter and Saturn both have hexagons at their North Pole and South Pole. So I wrote it down. So Jupiter has
hexagon as in, what do you mean by hexagon? Is it like if you look at the North and South Pole, it's a hexagon?
So Jupiter's is at the South Pole, and Jupiter's is a cluster of cyclones. Like, you know how Jupiter has the great red spot in the storm?
Yes.
At Jupiter's South Pole, there are 6 storms.
Wow.
Around a central storm.
You can't make this stuff up, man.
And it has this hexagon shape. I'll post, I have some articles coming out about this.
Far the F out.
So there's a hexagon at the bottom of Jupiter, and Saturn has one. Saturn's is more like a cloud shape. I don't know that we know as humans, like we don't know why these things are, but we luckily have spacecraft that are out there taking pictures for us and sending back intel. So Saturn, as you see it, has a hexagon in its North Pole. Mm-hmm. So I see like the light bodies of Saturn and Jupiter when we create this conjunction, like they're kind of like the 2 hexagons are like coming together.
Right.
And it's like, you know how the 2 pyramids form the Merkaba and they come together, like the 2 hexagons come together and the 6 plus 6 make the 12. And they're kind of like clicking in on this day. And then I've seen it come down to like this central bulge, just like what you were talking about.
Now, is this through meditation?
Out through the Saturn rings.
Is this through dimension or meditation or what? One and the same, but I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
Like this is not, this is really downloaded.
Oh, no, I know. I'd rather hear this than whatever the hell.
And so like it to me, I've seen like it coming and then like that bulging out through the rings of Saturn.
Yeah.
So on that day, the intel that came to me in January.
Now that's 12/18 to 12/21, right?
It's now.
Okay.
It's been happening in a few weeks.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
But it's yes. Yeah. The 21st is the time when they're together in the sky.
Okay.
So so that bulging out. So I have just the one more thing about Saturn, and I'll post a picture of this too. The other intel that came through to me in January is that one of the spacecraft took these pictures of Saturn's rings. So it was launched from Earth in time for Saturn's equinox. So there are these ice crystals, these like cool structures in Saturn's rings that like you can only see at Saturn's equinox because of the way the light from the sun.
I wonder what they are.
They're time crystals.
What do you
I think they are? Like
hold Akashic or
So my friend Dana sent me these, which I was like, oh, these are the time crystals. So I'm playing with these right now. They're little like.
Man, you live in a cool universe. I want to play in your sandbox, man.
Yeah, come on over, Todd.
So
there's something about the time, like the Saturn thing. Like there's just a lot.
Okay, so all right, just real quick back to okay, so like a period like that we're in right now. This period that's a combination of 2 or 3 or 4 different things.
Yeah, keep talking. I just got to get my power cord. Keep talking.
Right on. You know, that's creating a larger than usual window of opportunity, or you know, maybe another way to say it is going back to the timeline thing. How do timelines collapse? Is it these types of things that you're talking about, like Saturn and Jupiter conjuncting? And is it predicated at all by the individual's own thoughts, words, and actions? I mean, is there any connection? I mean, can we change things? I mean, what's your opinion on this stuff?
Well, it's all happening in inner space. So the central channel of the human energy field in the yoga scriptures, they call it the Sushumna Nadi. The central channel is the filament of light that's in the middle of your light bulb that lights you up. So to me, we're coded like this in our galaxy because we live in a barred spiral galaxy. I talked about that bar in the beginning, like that. several years ago, I did a meditation on the Galactic Center day. Like I was like what you were saying. I was like, what's up with this? Like, I want to know, show me what's going on here in December. And I was shown, like I could see the galaxy kind of spinning this way, but then it turned itself like upright and it became that central bar of the galaxy. I saw as my central channel. I was like, oh, like I'm the core of the galaxy. Like I'm this light bar, this light thing. So it's like, it's all like, that's, you know, a timeline, like it's all like you're realizing yourself and your own magnificence and your own light encoding. And you're like, that's what the Galactic Center codes are to me, is like, oh, I'm this, you know, you could say like, I'm God, I'm goddess, I'm light embodied, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. I mean, well, it's you know, and I've thought about it too. And I'm like, okay, well, first of all, if I get too caught up in it beyond like the kind of discussion that we're having, it almost becomes, you know, like a detriment, you know, like it takes away my energy and my focus. This is something that you do and that you're sharing, and this is great for me. But I guess what I'm saying is, there's some kind of connection there as within without.
Well, here's another way to say it. Like the timelines, like how do you, so I'm on this timeline where something's like, my life is going this way. Like, so we talk to people like what a timeline is. It's like a linear moments put together in a line, right? So it's like your trajectory of where you're facing and where you're going and where you're headed. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we feel like we're on this timeline of like, whatever, poverty or war or collapse or like enslavement or, you know, all those like lower, like how do we switch to a higher timeline?
Yeah, happy hour.
So when the timelines collapse, they're all, like, so what you're basically doing is moving to, you know, your beautiful wife calls it 0 point, call it still point. It's like the place where things merge and all the timelines are accessible. When you're in the 0 point field, when, you know, you're in that union field, when the two separates, the polarity merges back to the unity, everything's available. So that, like, you know, sometimes it feels like, oh, how do I get from this timeline all the way over to here? That's a long journey. And this is what we talk about, like the Tesseract in the, you know, the books where they talk about going through time. It's like the wrinkle in time. It's not behaving. You know, they collapse.
You fold them, 5-year-old. You fold them all at once. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, my timelines are having trouble merging. I have to wait till the 12th. I'm just kidding. There we go. But, you know, this is like timeline collapse is like all the timelines are like right here. So if I want to dial in and pick one, boom, it's just like a shorter trip. It's easier.
Now here's a comment I'm going to turn into a question by my friend Shonda Sparkles from Corpus Christi, Padre Island, my hometown. But I'm not really saying this specifically because of what she's saying, but going back to what you just showed us. Many believe that the Sagittarius Galactic Center is the cosmic passageway to source. Would that statement be a timeline in that?
Can you repeat it? Can you just read it again?
So many believe that the Sagittarius Galactic Center is the cosmic passageway to source. Now, I'm not really talking about this specific statement, but this statement and those like it, whatever they may be, because I'm not well versed in this. But going back to the little device that you have, the little thing that you have in your hand, representing all the different timelines, would something like this statement, many believe that the Sagittarius Galactic Center is a cosmic passageway to source, would that be considered like a timeline? Like, do we have a direct? What did she say?
It's more like a travel Stargate or gateway. Like, yes, I mean, I agree with that statement for sure, because it's like source coding. I mean,
but would it be from any coordinates in this thing that you're showing us? Any coordinates in there? What do you call it?
The celestial sphere.
Well, you had the little toy.
Oh, the toroidal. Yeah.
Toroidal. Okay. So any point, any coordinates anywhere in that mass that you're showing us, would there be a direct passageway to source, or do some areas have a greater, in other words, the light at the end of the tunnel is much bigger from some points than versus others?
Sure. I mean, it's
Oh,
all like from within to that central, like
yeah,
what is source? Like, is it the,
yeah, yeah,
if you're going to talk about it from astrophysics, is it like
true.
the
Yeah,
Big Bang, or where we always hear, is that like the connection to source is always within,
yeah.
so at outer space, as within, without, it is moving back to that central place. But there's we live in the fabric of space time. So we collapse, like some wormholes are travel corridors through space, and some are travel corridors through time, and some are both. It's always kind of both. Which
Wait a minute.
Your question, but like
Let's go back to that. That's
the Sagittarius A. The Sagittarius A is it's always all available, and it's always all available within. I feel like the things without, and the stars, like what they do for me is like, you see them in the night sky, like what you were talking about with Aldebaran, and it's like it sparks something in your soul, like some memory. It's like what some of us use crystals for, or andaras, or some people would use like a YouTube video of like someone's light codes or like light language for. It's all to spark your soul's kind of reunification with itself. And you are source, and you are like of source, so you have it coded in your cells.
I love talking to you about this stuff. I look forward to talking about this stuff forever with you.
Right.
And one of the reasons I like it is because you're not even like, I mean, you're a mom, you've got kids, you've got a partner, you're normal, but you're not, you're weird.
Like I pay a mortgage and run a business.
Exactly.
And from school in 45
minutes. You don't get caught up. You don't even go there in terms of like the stuff that a lot of people on the face of the earth are kind of affixed to right now, viruses and quarantines and elections and fraud and whatever. But I want to ask you, because there are things that are coming out, I know you read a lot, and especially if it's has anything to do with space. And I noticed, because I try to stay on top of things, but I've noticed that over the last 3 weeks, about the last 3 weeks, that soft disclosure, drip, 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 has kind of been increasing, to include the last one, 2-3 days ago, that came out in the Israel state-run paper. This 83-year-old astrophysicist, Cosmo guy that ran their space stuff for 30 years, came out and said that ETs have been talking to us. They don't want to be presented yet because the Earth's not ready. And it went on to say a few other things. I don't want to get into the sensationalistic part of it, but there's been other things too. Videos released by the CIA just in the last week. Hardcore. I mean, when I say hardcore, but like, not that there's not more out there, but they're actually admitting to this. They admitted to the Tic Tac thing a couple of years ago out on the West Coast. And so one of the assertions that this man made, and of course you got to question everything, but I'm just saying one of the assertions he made was that we had there was an underground civilization, I guess, or community on Mars that was inhabited by ET family and also some Americans. So I'm just asking this in a general way because of the way you focus and how you don't get charged by these types of things. Do you think that we've been to the moon? Do you think that we've been to other planets? Do you think there's a whole shitload of stuff that we haven't been told? Or do you think that a lot of that's just propaganda?
I don't know for sure that the human race as we know it have been to other planets, but like in our short term, like, do I believe that we landed on the moon? Yeah. No. Seems valid to me. What do I know? But I'm not like one of those conspiracy, we didn't land on the moon people. They kind of go with it goes with the flat earth thing. But because the how about this, in the zeitgeist, you can believe, like, we either landed on the moon or we didn't. Right. But like that the world, the timeline I'm dialing into where we did land on the moon, like those pictures and that like view of us from outer space as a planet, like that moment in human history was really good for us as an evolution as a species, because it helped us realize that we're all, like that I believe in strongly.
Well,
like,
that's good.
the bases on Mars and the other things. You know, it's cool. Like you look at stuff and there's like stuff that looks like it's debris from old.
Yeah.
Like, have there been races that have come through? Sure. I don't have any direct intel of that. I have inklings and like memories. So I guess an answer. So I think I was around like 13 when, you know, the book, The Contact, and then the movie, Jodie Foster had that movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie. That was a good movie, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, but I'm always a book girl, but the movie was fine, but the books
the books are
really
always
good.
better.
But that I remember being like a preteen or whatever, a little kid, and reading that and being like, okay, you know, about SETI and, you know, the disclosure thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I, as a preteen, I was like, you know, they're looking all wrong. They're looking for other humanoids broadcasting the way and speaking the way that we do. I was like, I remember saying this to my mom from the backseat of the car. I was like, they're looking all wrong. Like we should look for, you know, we're carbon-based life forms that breathe oxygen. They could be like methane-based life forms that are, you know, like everybody. I was like, it's going to come. The contact's going to come vibrationally. It's going to come in a whole different way. You know, like rather like looking at things from the technology that we broadcast with just seemed, even from my preteen perspective, I was like, they're looking at it all, or they're looking for it with the wrong equipment. So like we are the equipment, you know?
I agree. I agree.
And disclosure is an inside job, as people say. You know, it's like
talk about AI and, you know, if you get down to the most literal and everything's one, you know, and we're playing out here. How do we not know that we're not at some level of perception or reality AI ourselves?
Can I go back to the very first thing you said? I didn't want to interrupt you or be disrespectful at your intro, but you know, you can just talk to the AI bots on Facebook, and they're like, you just interact with them. You telepath like you would talk to the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to feel like you're being suppressed or this. Like, there's a way to like just communicate with the codes, and you can make Facebook friendly.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Actually, part of the team has kept me in line with that, but I don't have. But and I'll tell you why. That's a great.
I know you don't go there that often, which is why I thought like, shift correct.
Like, some of the things I say, some of the things I say are, you know, but that's a very good point. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I'll tell you what, I do one of two things. One is I don't think about it. So it's not going to be in my field. Or two, I do communicate with that or any other energy. Any energy, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a diabolical looking thing or whatever the case is. But and this is a good segue into what I was going to ask you when you asked me that, because in terms of what is and what isn't, I think this is what you were saying, and this would apply to the suppression of the whatever, the theoretical suppression by social media or the Matrix or whatever, and this would apply to did we land on the moon, and this would apply to is there a base under Mars? Is it not worthy of consideration to consider that the individual fractal of God that you're looking at or that I'm looking at actually creates from their point of creation, which is their imagination and whatever the power source is, however you define that, by in layman terms, by their belief system, choosing a timeline, choosing their own. I mean, you know, for instance, is there 8 billion people here and we have 8 billion different timelines, 8 billion different Earths, 8 billion different, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all a projection.
Yeah.
From like, you know, from your projector of your mind or your pineal gland. Yeah. It's like the world that you see. But it goes back to like what you were talking about with even the 1212 of like talking about activating that, like, you know, the creator strands or the, you know, dormant strands of the DNA. But yeah, like you are, or I always go back to, this is just a tangible, like Superman when he went to the Fortress of Solitude with the crystals, and he stuck the crystals into the thing, and then like Jarrell, like his dad appeared and he like talked up things, you know, or like on Star Trek, The Next Generation, you know, you go to the holodeck, you program up like, oh, I want to be in, you know, this garb and this era, and then go, you know, play out a mystery show, and like, you know, you dial in what you want to see, it's what gets tricky for people is like when you see suffering and you see separation and you see pain, it's like, how do you're like, like I'm responsible for that. Like there's something inside of me, it's a lot of responsibility to really walk the talk of like, I create my world with my words and thoughts and actions, but it is true. Right. And you're like coding it out there.
We're fantastic writers, creators, and directors and actors, aren't we?
I mean, a tiny thing like, with my friends who are more like, I hang out with more like the earthy crunchy mamas and, and like, just if I bring it, it's not like that stuff isn't in my field all the time. Like I have small kids and the forced vaccination thing and the whole thing. And like some people, that's like a whole thing, right? That you don't want to tread too much in, but I have friends that are so concerned about it. And, my kids are chemical free thus far of that, pharmaceutical chemical free and, plenty of Doritos and other crap that's, but, that you like, if you want to talk about is part of the unity field too, of like, you're going to take up the sword and shield and like fight against things that you don't want, or you're going to
it's not in my world, man.
I'm just like, yeah, I gotta like, it's interesting though. I feel like this 2020 stuff, it's gotten so squeezy. It's like, you have to be really, like, I don't mind necessarily being stuck at home. Well, it's like you have to be really careful who you talk to, what conversations you have, what you speak out into the world,
and what you think,
and like
the thoughts you carry forward. I do a lot of alt control delete. Like, let me pull that back in here.
Yeah, the delete button.
But it's because
with friends.
But the thing is because, and I don't think this is me. I think this is happening collectively because as the individual goes, so goes the collective. But the reason it's happening is because I'm being more conscious and I'm having more belief in the fact that I'm creating everything, right? And I think it's happening to more and more people. Now, I'll give you another quick example. Franco de Nicola, and I can't name another couple off the top of my head right now because it's still too soon after my birthday celebration. But so one of the things that's been happening on these shows as people have come to talk like Franco in regard to what I would call forecasting, that's similar to like what you're able to do with the stars and in your intel, is that the decisions or what's occurring, what's decided in the energetic field and how it manifests in the physical plane in the experience that we all share is getting really close, right? So it's not like you can go, okay, a year from now, this is in 5 years from now, and this in 10 years from now, this is going to happen. It's like getting really close. And that's happening. Part of what's happening is we haven't decided what we're going to do. Like he came on 2 weeks before the election and he said, I said, do you have any intel on that? He said, Franco's not the type to go, like Nostradamus or something like that. He just said, this is what I got. We haven't decided yet. We being all of us.
It didn't click in. Yeah. It didn't click in until like, even after like for me too, like it didn't click in until a few days later. It was very.
And I wonder if it's clicked in yet. Have we decided yet? Not to get caught up on the
superficial. Well, the cool part, like for me, like what I was, I say task, like what I was called by my soul to like work with the election is like really being okay.
No matter what.
Like no matter, like it's just like in that neutral place with all of it. Like it doesn't really matter. So, like what we've all been asked, why all this stuff is dragging on is because it's all like, we have to sit with the unknown.
Yeah.
And really like, can we all get to that?
That's a great point.
Place of like it not mattering who wins because it's just like it's a play going up on the stage up there.
Exactly.
So it doesn't really affect me in my life.
I love that. And the thing is, we're going to keep getting this kind of stuff. And this is just my opinion. We're going to keep getting this kind of stuff. These divisive issues, these polarized issues. We're going to keep getting them. And we ain't got no one to blame but ourselves, and we're going to keep getting them until we accept both outcomes. And that's what you're saying about this. You're saying, you get to a point where it doesn't matter which way it goes. It doesn't.
Yeah, or, even like, whatever.
Yeah.
Or just even be like the whole, of course I want us to be in the free choice point.
Yeah.
But like even with the vaccine thing, it's like, okay, if you can alchemize anything as it's going into your body, like it's all going to be fine. Like either whatever you want to do.
Or you can,
Yeah, but we have
you can just say, F you, you're not sticking a needle in me,
Well, that too, but
and that might be too radical, and that might be too polarized and dualistic.
But just we're like the 2020 thing.
Yeah.
It's just when you think we couldn't be any more polarized, something else happens for us here. And I know this is like, we don't have time to talk about this whole thing, but we're right in between. Next December, we're going to be at the midpoint between the two total solar eclipses. Like this whole USA, North America, like the coding that's happening right now with the USA is huge.
What do you mean?
And the 2017 eclipse kind of came from like the Portland, Oregon way, like down. And the next one is coming from the south, like Mexico, up towards Quebec.
Do you have
like cross in the middle?
Do you have a planetarium? What do you call them? Planetarium. Do you have a planetarium in your house?
In my house?
Yeah.
No. In my head?
In your head.
I have a couple apps on my phone.
But what do you mean about 2020? In like, what is for? Just give us your take on what you've been getting, but even beyond 2020, like what's your feel? What do you feel our trajectory is? How does, and I understand that you understand that it is an inside job, not to.
I don't know exactly what you mean. Like, what do I think?
Like you were talking about, like the effect on America or the state of America as a result of the second eclipse and where it's coming from. Even the planetary and celestial alignments and formations, 2021, numbers, numerology, whatever you want to call it, and not to be second to any of that is your own intel. What are you feeling? How are you feeling?
It's a big question. Am I feeling about 2020
or
like why?
Like even now, are you excited? Are you?
Yeah, these are exciting. Yeah. Things are exciting. Things are getting, I feel like one of my things has been with my small circles here and larger circles is to just like offer that viewpoint of reminding people that we're in the dismantling and it's ugly. But like good things are coming our way, like really exciting, good light, good energy. It's like, I feel very hopeful and positive. And is that what you mean? You're asking me like, what do I see? Yeah. And there's one of the things that I've been working on from the summer, from a grid worker perspective, from the summer till now, has been working with the Mayflower pilgrims and stuff, like this whole, like the North America, in addition to some of the election stuff. But I live here in Massachusetts in the United States, and this is the 400th year anniversary of the Mayflower landing, blah, blah, blah. But that's like a microcosm. You asked about like disclosure and ships and whatnot, like that moving out into another region, either of space or on your own planet, like looking for more resource. So that's looking for like the metallics.
I see what you're saying.
Like sometimes we pick a thing that's like a tangible like microcosm thing to work on, but it has these like galactic.
I get what you're saying. I want to make sure that we really capture it all because. So first of all, like, just give us a general. In your role, what is grid work? 2, why did you choose Plymouth Rock, or how was that presented? How did you know to work that? And 3, just reiterate what you're saying, because I think what you're saying is like the people coming to Plymouth Rock was like, let's say from our perspective or relative to our where we're at in this space and time, would be like spaceships landing on our Earth, and we're the Indians, right? And to the Plymouth Rock people, right? So
yeah.
What's work? Why did you choose Plymouth Rock? And just kind of restate what you were saying about the correlation between that and today's times, the microcosmic part.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a long. So the sun, like with grid work, I live here in Massachusetts, and my family vacations on Cape Cod, which is where. But the Plymouth Rock is sort of steeped in our history. Okay. But I was down there I always multitask, soccer sidelines or school pickup or family vacation, like grid work is happening in the background or in the foreground.
Yeah.
And I just noticed when we were at the beach. So there's also, like, when we do gate work and gateways, there's all these cycles of things.
Yeah.
So this 400-year cycle is pretty potent.
So it was 400 years to this year? It was 400 years to this year?
1620, yeah.
1620, okay.
So I saw it on some sign, and I was like, oh, 1620, 2020. Oh, like December 8th, a few days ago, was like what they call the first encounter. I posted something on my Facebook wall about it. Like, I was at that beach. There's a beach in Massachusetts. It's called First Encounter Beach. So like Plymouth Rock, they actually landed in Provincetown at the tip. So I work for grid work. I'm not one of the grid workers that travel around the globe so much. Like, I'm a stabilizer and I live here and, conduct my suburban mom existence, and also do a lot of grid work. But I work there's some like an energy spiral that runs between Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, down the coast of Maine, like through the Boston Harbor, and spirals into the tip. Massachusetts is kind of shaped like a forearm at the end. So like the Pilgrims really came to that knuckle place in Provincetown. I noticed that it was the 400, and I was like, oh, that's a thing. Like, things just kind of ping. Like, how do things ping you and you know what to work on? That's a great question. And I just it's just awareness and noticing. And I was like, oh, I'm here. There's also a piece of it that moves into solar cycles too. So the sun has minimum and maximum cycles that happen every 11 years. There's also a grand solar maximum and minimum that's every 400 years. So 400 years ago, it's interesting too. It's like kind of coded with the whole corona thing. So when the sun is at a maximum, the sun is shedding off a lot of sun material, plasma, and it kind of burps this magnetosphere and kind of protects planet Earth. So we get a lot of solar codes, but we don't get a lot of cosmic codes at that time. When the sun goes into a minimum, the magnetosphere is weaker, and we get a lot more bombardment with cosmic rays and galactic rays. There's a thing about the global pandemics and how they work in cycles with these solar cycles. And some might say, what if the whole corona thing was actually, it's like latent on the Earth, but when the cosmic rays come in, other scientists beyond myself, I've read a lot of articles about this. Okay. When the cosmic rays come in, they kind of awaken that dormant virus that's here on the planet, and it like recodes the system. Okay. Like, it like goes through your body. And so that people are making these choice points of like, and of course, hearts and, blessings go out to all the people that are suffering with this. I don't mean to, I was going to put that in because people are like, people are dying, Julie. I'm like, I know, but it's an upgrade. It's a human race upgrade, what we're going through right now. Yeah. And it like kind of happens. Well,
yeah.
So with the Mayflower thing, that's like microcosm of it, because, they landed and there had been a great plague in the right before 1620, which wiped out all the native villages that were here on the Atlantic coast.
Wait, that plague occurred prior to the Plymouth Rock arrival?
Yes. So they had
a plague in the Native American civilization pre-1620 when there wasn't any.
It was called the Great Dying.
But there wasn't any.
1619.
I know there was a lot of attrition from disease that the Europeans brought to the Native Americans when they first settled. Was this unrelated to that?
No, it was earlier. Sometimes people think that the Mayflower Pilgrims were the first Europeans, but they for sure weren't. There was a lot of French fur traders and whatnot. Yes, for sure. Like, they don't really know if it was smallpox, was it diphtheria, was it, what was it? But yeah, they had gone down from the Maine coast. A lot of French fur trader types were up more in like Quebec, Canada, Maine, like that coast region. But then they ended up coming, because that like sticks out a little bit more. It's a little further east, Nova Scotia and whatnot, and that part of Canada. But they had come down, and they think for sure it was from Europeans coming and visiting. Maybe they brought a disease influx in, but that just noticing how, so yeah, the Mayflower Pilgrims came and they landed at the tip in Provincetown, and then say there had been 30,000 Wampanoag tribal people that were living here on this land that's now Massachusetts.
Right on.
Anywhere from like 70% of them got wiped out by this plague.
Wow.
So a lot of their villages were just completely empty.
Jesus.
So in this particular, like my husband asked me when I was geeking out on this one time with him at dinner, he's like, why are the Mayflower, like, why are they so famous? Right? Like, what's up with that? And there's something about like the New World, and that they came and like they faced a lot of odds and, you know, disease and strife and whatnot, but like crossing across the Atlantic without, you know, now we don't go anywhere without our cell phones. They just got on these boats and had no way to communicate with land. They were out there for 66 days and just sort of like this mission of like,
can you imagine?
You know, in a way that's like, you know, we're like the Ark, you know, we're like spaceship Earth, like we're going to take our families and like put on the.
So you're actually saying in multiple ways, multiple streams, that it's the same thing over and over. It just looks like it looks different, right? Like to the Indian, let's say to that Indian community of say you said 30,000, they were the Earth for all intents and purposes. They were the 8 billion people on the Earth, and so the ship comes over. And if we don't think of it as a literal ship or literal people, we just think of it as an energy. That energy hit this civilization, and there was a Corona-esque type of situation. You know, although we could argue, you know, to what degree, 70% is a lot more than I think what's happening here. But yeah, so I see what you're saying. That's very, very, very cool. Very interesting.
But you asked me like a more simple question, and I kind of went, we always do. We always go galactic when I talk to Todd. It's fun. But how do you know what to work on? Like you're like, as a grid worker, like how do you know what to work on or where you're called to do things? Is that
for you? Like you said, you don't travel because you obviously have other duties, and but you probably would and have, I know, occasionally. But for you, like how did well, you already answered it really in the story you're telling. You kind of gather your direction from straight intel, observation, putting it all together in one, and you do.
So yeah, and how this goes to the Stargate. So one thing I think we think a lot about as far as Stargates and star energy and coding is the incoming codes that we receive on Earth, and there's a equal amount of broadcast that we do. Yeah. So there's like a section of us like grid worker gatekeepers, like a Stargate is both an incoming place, but there's also the crystalline broadcast network. So I've been working with a team or various teams of grid workers for many years now in working on building crystalline tech and building a broadcast network. Like you're part of it because you're broadcasting codes, you know, what did you do? 86 shows? Like anytime, like we're broadcasting out what we want to project. So I had, if we go like back to, I work a lot with the Tesla Collective and like the Science Geek.
How many people do you work with?
No, I'm just like, how many like grid workers you mean? Or
are you talking about you're connected with them in the etherics, or you actually?
Well, I know it's an interesting process. It's fun. It's interesting to find out. Like, so I see things and hear things and get a lot of downloads in meditations and such. And I do research with it too. But so I, Long Island, like Tesla has a lab in New York and on Long Island. I should put this in like small amount of time terms, but there's also another gentleman. So Marconi was the first person who did the wireless transmission. So it's part of like the crystal. I work like kind of out into the Atlantic, and there's a lot of like crystalline like pyramids and like codes, a lot of stuff that's happening in the Atlantic Ocean. So I go oceanside and work with that crystalline tech, which is a whole nother topic to talk about what that means. But I have certain places. So I was working, what I was called to do this summer was work with the wireless, the history. You go to the place where Marconi, he's a Italian gentleman that was really wanted to get code or the first wireless transmission from North America to Europe. It was done at the same place, kind of like where the Mayflower landed. Like that, the Cape Cod has a lot of codes because it kind of sticks out the furthest east. So people land there. Also, a lot of intel comes in there, if you will. So in Nova Scotia and also Massachusetts. So Marconi did his first broadcast December 15th. So it's another one of those, like, I feel like we didn't go through my dates of what I'm working on, but the broadcast crystalline network of what we're sending out from our own center and what we're like broadcasting out, like the goodness, the light, the freedom codes. You know, when people talk about like unlocking the freedom codes and all that, it's like, what are we broadcasting out on? There's crystalline, part of crystalline grid keeping is like building crystalline tech or like light cities, broadcast networks.
Do you think, because I have my own opinion, but do you think that the type of stuff that you're describing, the grid work, the teams of grid workers, these coordinated efforts where two or more gather to build crystal technology and the different things you talked about, do you think this will become mainstream anytime soon? Like household topics?
Come to my house. I'm talking about all the time. Yeah, I hope so. That would be fun. I mean, that's part of like why I really appreciate you and what you do, is because it gives people like myself that are like kind of quietly doing this in our hometowns, like we get to talk about it and share about it. And
I want to, that's a great example. And I'm not being facetious. I mean, I want you to be able to walk into the mall in Boston, Mass, and people go, "Oh my God, there's the weather, the cosmic weather lady, man. There's Julie." I mean, I just see it as obviously this is part of my objective, but at the same time, I see it as a natural evolution in our reality. Like this is about the stuff you're talking about, like the cycles, the different things that happen when you're in a different, like with the conjunction and things like that. What happened the last time and what's playing over again. And it would just make sense to me that everything's parallel in terms of, how truthful or aligned it is. I don't know. I'm certainly going to do everything I can to support it.
So it's like I'm going to say, the multi-dimensional gateways. Like if we're working with something, you can talk about, you asked me way back at the beginning, like, what are these star things? What do they mean for anything, right? They're like alignments and opportunities. They're like flows of information. So gates imply that like a barrier in the free flow, whether it's like in the wall or like the artery. And then gatekeepers are people that open doorways. You could say it a door opener. You open information, or you have a conversation like, how are you a way shower, or how do you open doors for people? Is you just say things, it's a well-timed comment or, a Facebook post or like an email. But as far as going mainstream, like I'm trying to do it. Like how I can way show about that is getting brave enough to talk about this with some of my like,
let's
regular, as Hung calls them, like muggles, like my mom friends who are like,
we'll just get it. We'll get you on here as often as we can, whatever works, and then they can just watch that, because eventually they're going to hear about it.
Well, that's the other thing is like for my choice point personally, like sometimes I get very this is the last few years for me. It's been like, I have to be myself in all situations. I have to be this like galactic whack job in all situations, and like, can I let more of that show in my daily life and not have a separation of like, oh, I talk with my grid worker friends and my spiritual people about this wacky stuff, but I'm not like, getting public on the Facebook post and like really just talking about it. Because as soon as I do talk about it, I get flooded with other people that are like, oh yeah, that's happening to me too. And it's like, for any of us, we have to have that bravery of speaking it out.
There is a, and I always try to drill everything down, for myself, not so much but there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for being yourself. And I know that sounds cliche and all you new age woo bullshit, but it's not. And I can remember when I reawoke 9 years ago, and I had to go into rehab for 90 days of in-house rehab. And so they sent me to the psychiatrist because they said I was nuts. And so he has like this 4 or 5 page questionnaire, and he starts asking me these questions. We got about half a page or a page through it. And he asked me, do you hear voices? And I said, well, that depends on what you mean. But my point here is I told him the truth.
Yeah.
And I said, and he asked me, I said, well, yeah, I'm talking to 6 ascended masters. They were, they were in the Bible. I looked them up, and, I talked to Jesus, Archangel Michael, and Mary Magdalene. And my point is that in that weird time that we all go through when we awake, and everyone says you're crazy, and you're either, they're going to put you in a psych ward or in jail or both or whatever, that the truth will not lay you down. And like, this guy was supposed to basically commit me, and he got a page and a half through, so there's nothing wrong with you, you can leave. But so I really feel, I'm just using myself as an example, but I watch it all the time in the community and in Soulogy when people come on the show, and like talking to you, like when we meet in flesh, it'd be like, it's like talking to you. It's like, pass the butter, please. It's like, it's so natural. And I think that's what I'm getting at, is like, there's this natural cadence of the soul that the humans coming into. We don't have to impress anybody. It's actually your strength is your perceived weakness. Like your strength, what you can share to the world. And this is one example, the micro again, Julie. But what you can share with the world is like fucking mind blowing. Talk about gatekeeper. If gatekeeping we just redefine it as making people think, providing code. If that's what it is, then the new technology is just being ourselves and sharing what we're getting,
Yeah.
You're amazing. So, and Hung, well, we'll pray for Hung. She's not much we can do for her.
Well, it's been a squeezy year to be a small business owner for any of us.
Yeah.
You got to make your bank while the cash is flowing.
I know, man. I thought I was going to have to go out on the streets again and sell my ass. I'm kidding. God, I don't know what's wrong.
How much is your ass going for these days, Todd?
Not enough. I'm still down to 2 pair of blue jeans, and one's got a hole between the legs. I'm kidding. It's good to have fun, though.
You guys are in Arkansas still, right?
Yeah, we're here. It looks like we're going to be here for a little while, like maybe a year. I don't know.
That's
I know that
supposed to get down there. Like, I was going to go. Yeah.
Oh my God, we went to Hot Springs yesterday.
Did you?
And, man, yeah. And there was a lot of, obviously, anytime because she'd gone over for a few days, and then, I was doing what I was doing for 4 or 5 days. I canceled a bunch of shows. I had a weekend. I was researching. I was downloading. She was, doing her thing in solitude. We hook up with a couple of friends, triad energy, boom, boom, boom. I'm hearing buzzing going off in my ear, tones going off in my ear. And I'm like, okay. I don't know what any of this means, but I know why we're here. Like, it was just such a powerful trip. And the crystal part of it, the location of Hot Springs, and even where we live, Arkansas, period. It's just like, boom. Like, I know there's stuff going on all over the place, both, in the physical and the non-physical.
Have you been up to Magnetic Mountain by chance?
Magnetic? Is it Magazine Mountain or Magnetic? I've not heard of Magnetic Mountain. There's a Magazine Mountain
near Eureka Springs. Up in that.
Okay, that must be Magnetic Mountain. Yeah. I've been to Eureka Springs a couple of times, but I haven't been there. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get out and about a little bit. It's getting cold now, though. See, we're not used to your weather up there.
I know, it was like 33 today. It felt warm compared to the last few days. I was like, oh, I don't even need, you remember, I used to live up here.
Right on. Yeah,
like in the 30s, you don't even need a coat because it's like warm spell.
People over there, they're crazy, man. They just wear like 111 in the house. Anyway, you know what I do miss? because I had one the other night on my birthday, pre-birthday. So we got there on the 8th, so we went to dinner. I had a lobster tail because I used to love seafood. Anyway, it was horrible. I thought, man, I wish I was in
Midwest lobster.
I wish I was in Worcester. I used to go over there for my old. I'd go to lunch and you could get 3 for $19.99, and they were like this. They were huge. 3 for $19.99. One was like $8. 2 was like 12 or 14 or something. I love you. We got to do this again soon. Wait a minute. Let's make sure that people are going to ask. And do you have a website?
I do. It's innerspacehealing.org. Innerspacehealing.org.
Org. Boom. And then you can find her on Facebook. There's innerspacehealing.org. Now you have a group. You have a group on Facebook. What's it called?
I have a few, but I have a group called Living. A page, you mean?
I don't know. Just tell me whatever you.
Innerspace.
The page is Innerspace. Yeah. That's right. That's right. That's the one I was thinking. What's the group?
My profile is public.
Innerspace page on Facebook. Boom. What's the group on Facebook? Are you looking for anyone, or is it private, or what?
I have a couple groups that I have one that's like more on Dhara, crystal and grid keeper people. That's called Living Light. But it's like I heavily curate. I'm not like I want 10,000 people on my group kind of person. I'm like, I'd rather have, 100 people. I know everybody.
If somebody's interested,
Yeah.
What's the other one?
My public page is Julie Dhara Roberts. I post a lot. Like probably my.
Is that your name? I didn't know that.
Julie. It's like, Dhara Roberts is my Facebook profile.
Everyone knows your name.
They do? Okay, good. You can friend me. Like I'm more of like, I post a lot of stuff on my
all the stalkers,
and
you now have carte blanche to contact her.
I have a YouTube channel too. Thanks, Yoga.
That's what I was asking. Yeah, YouTube.
I know. I got to get more content.
Your YouTube is Innerspace too.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Yoga Synthesis.
Thank you, Yoga Synthesis.
Innerspace. Okay, so
and
I know we talked about collaboration, and we're in a much different situation now. Things are falling in line, like for all of us, So anyway, I want to talk to you more about that. So let's hook up.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you anytime, Todd. Reach out.
Yeah, let's hook up. Let's hook up. Let's do this again, at least in the next 30 days.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, so I'll let Morgan know, or don't leave it up to me because you know what happens, right?
All right. I never want to bug you though and be like, I figure you have
No, I don't. If you send me something, it's just like.
And I have to wait my turn. But if you want my turn more often, I would love that.
I would like to. Yes, I would like to do it at least once a month, at least. And actually, would like to develop a program, where there's, and we're looking for this, and I'll be talking more about it. But I wanted to get past this period. I probably won't be talking about it till the 21st.
Yeah. We got to get through December 1st.
Yeah. Everyone's like, 2021. Everyone's like, last week, they're like, 2021 is going to be. And I'm like, 2021? I said, there's still 3 weeks left in 2020. That's like 3 fucking years, man.
And if I want to be like wax self-promotional, I'm also launching, I have an online course thing that I'm launching for doing classes about grid work and space and.
It's right up
stars, and that'll be through my webpage. You can find it.
Very cool. I mean, we're basically I'm not going to get into it already, but I'm looking at it on the board. But basically, the ultimate product is you're the perfect template. We're creating a template, and that template is 3-pronged. One is a social network, alternative to Facebook. One's like an archival thing, kind of a combination of YouTube and Periscope. And then the third one is kind of a Wikipedia-ish directory where it won't just be like yellow pages. It'll actually be interactive. And so somebody hits Julie, boom, they go to the different, whatever, your innerspace.org and all that stuff. So
it's fun. It's been such a delight to watch you kind of birth this into the world over the last many years. I know it's like the painful contraction.
Birth it. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here you are. It's very exciting.
Oh, holy crap. Yeah.
Thanks for being you and all that you do. Your whole team.
Thank you for showing up and being so cool. We'll do more.
Birthday.
We'll do more. Thank you. We have a show in 19 minutes. I don't know who it is.
Someone else coming
I
on.
haven't put up any of the posts today. What is it? Who's it? Oh, we have Richard McKeesadek, a Canadian dude. Very cool. He was on last month. And he has a divine partner. And he's very cool, very powerful. You guys didn't see Richard McKeesadek, however you say that. He was on about 5 weeks ago, and he was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Love you all.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Thanks.